these are the guys to talk to. These are the consultants. And so we're going to show you a little bit about Final Cut Pro 10.2 from FCPWORKS, Sam Mestman.
Hey guys. There's a new version of Final Cut, as I'm sure a lot of you guys know. This is going to be, I think, a somewhat interesting session. I'm flying a little bit blind, so we're going to have some fun tonight. But I'm going to start off with a few questions, which is, how many of you guys are using the new version? How many of you guys are really excited about the new version? All right. How many of you guys, I've been reading and looking around on some of the forums, and a lot of people have mentioned that they're not too impressed with the 3D text. Do you guys like the 3D text? Okay, we've got four hands. So not a lot of fans of the 3D text. Do a lot of people, and I guess another question I have is, what do you guys think about some of the other features? Do you guys feel like this is the update you were hoping for? Yeah, one or two. Okay. So how many of you guys also know that you can do power windows in Final Cut now? Okay, there's two. How many people know that they can track their power windows now in Final Cut? Well, two. Okay. So we're going to have some fun tonight. How many people also work in a shared environment in Final Cut? One, two. How many people feel like they can keep their libraries up on the network in Final Cut? One. I got a couple hands. All right. So this is going to be a really interesting session. So we've got some time. Sit back. And basically, we're going to walk through some of these features, and then I'm going to show you guys something else that we've been working on, and which is why there's all this stuff over there right now. And one other quick thing, actually, how many of you guys know what we were doing at NAB? Couple. So if any of you guys are interested in diving in further into Final Cut 10 workflow, we published last week like 17 videos and probably 15, 14 hours of content related to the Final Cut 10 ecosystem. There's about 9 million different things. Philip Hodgetts, if you guys are not using Lumberjack, you need to see his presentation, and you also need to see Mark Bach's presentation about what he's doing over at DirecTV. We had the people from TED Talks, we had Mike Matsdorf from Focus. We had a really awesome independent feature film that is doing some really impressive things with shot notes. And there we also had Core Melt and Color Finale and pretty much everything that you might have been hoping for in the Final Cut 10 world. We tried to show a little bit of that. All of the videos are free. If you go to fcp.co, I think they've got most of them up there. And if you can't find the link to all 17, just drop me an email at sam@FCPWORKS. I'll point you in the right direction. But the truth of the matter is, this is an extremely powerful, I guess, post-production world that we're living in. So, you know, I guess I will stop talking about it, and I'll just start kind of showing you some of the new stuff, and we'll go through, and then there'll be a couple surprises toward the end. But we'll go and let's just dive into the new version. And there's not that much different on the surface. There is a shiny new icon that looks a little bit more in line with Yosemite. A major thing, though, that was updated that you guys should all know, which is probably the single biggest update in Final Cut, was the waveforms and performance improvement throughout the application. You should upgrade, if for no other reason, then everything is going to run and move a lot smoother in the application now. So this is a big step forward performance-wise. Additionally, we'll just dive in, and I'm just going to show some stuff off, probably in no particular order. And actually, you know what? We'll just go and we'll make a new project, and we'll just call this 10.2. So for me, I think the thing that most of you guys are going to find the most useful right off the bat is the Save Effects presets. So this is something that, like, I'm not sure a lot of people, I haven't seen a ton of stuff being talked about. If you guys watch Steve Martin's presentation from the FCPWORKS suite, he goes into pretty deep detail on some of this, but there is some extremely cool stuff that you can now do with effects. So for instance, I'm just going to go in. The first thing you guys should know is that the color correction filter now lives in the color side of the, I saw a clap there. So there's pluses and minuses to this. Some people really like it, some people hate it, but the number one reason that they did this was that previously, if you are in the broadcast world, for instance, you could not adjust the filter order. So for instance, if I dragged over a colorized filter on this as well, color correction was always going to live above everything else. So if I had a broadcast filter, but now I can move my color correction filter up and down. Now, a lot of people like the fact that they could, a lot of people love the fact that they could put that they could immediately go to the color board, and a lot of people think that's actually gone. It is not. So if you guys want to immediately go to the color board, I'm just going to drop another clip in here. The keyboard shortcut for the color board is still there, and it's automatically going to apply a color correction filter to a clip if you select it, and that's Command 6, in case you were wondering. So you can still get to the color board from any clip immediately. And from there, if you want to get a color filter, if you notice, and I step out here, there's no color correction filter applied. In order to get a color correction filter applied, all you do is you go to Command 6, and you make some sort of adjustment. And now when I pop back out, I'm going to see a color correction filter there. So this is there. They didn't move it. You just now have more flexibility. And so that's an important thing to know. And if we go and now dive in, and I'm going to just, for our purposes, make something look really bad, just so you guys see the difference. And then what I'm also going to do is, if I step back into the transform area here, I'm going to adjust the scale. And now I'm going to show you something that's kind of interesting, because I'm going to put another clip here. And if you notice, I now have a transformation and a color correction filter applied. And there's this little button on the bottom now that says Save Effects Preset. So what I'm going to do is now you can use paste attributes, all of the functionality that's in there, to now save a custom effect. This has a variety of uses. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to name this. I'll call this Ugly Color Correction. And I'm going to save this to a category, or I could make a new category. So we'll call this LACPUG Demo. And I'm going to create a new category here, and I'm going to save this. And now, when I come into my Effects tab, and I go to, I now have a new category here called LACPUG Demo, where I can take this filter and apply it to the new clip. And so this has a variety of uses. So you could do stacks of filters, you could do custom letterboxing, you can do all of these things and save these to various categories. Additionally, if you find that you've saved too many presets and you want to get rid of them, you could go to Reveal in Finder, and it's right there, and you can just go ahead and delete it. And that lives in a Effects Presets folder now. So this is extremely customizable, and a few uses that you guys may find useful specifically is for audio mixing. So say you have a standard EQ and compression setting that you like. This is as easy as going to levels, and we'll just put an EQ on here, and I'm just going to drag a compressor on, and then I'm going to add we'll just put this thing on there. Whatever, we'll call this, say you have a monster VO voice that you do a lot of that stuff, but, and you're doing a cartoon. So all you would do is, if we go to the audio filter, you see I have 2 of these on here. I'm going to adjust the amount, and I can also, change the compressor, and I like my setting to be at a 7:1 ratio with a high threshold. And I know this is going to be something, especially for VO or something, that you're going to want to use frequently, and these are typical settings. What you do is you just go Save Effects Preset, and I only want these 2 selected, but you could also have a volume and pan setting selected there. And we're going to call this Monster VO, and I'm going to put this back in the exact same category, or well, this is now in an audio category, so I'm just going to put this into LACPUG Audio, create, save, and now, basically for finishing, if you have a finished mix or something, or you have a stem, and you know that you want to apply this, all you need to do is you go down to LACPUG Audio, and you apply this filter, and you can do it across multiple clips, however you want to do it. So the idea of having all of these filters, and by the way, these are all of Logic's filters, having these custom compressors, if you think about it, it's really kind of like having channel strips, if you guys are familiar with the digital audio world, where you can have these settings preset, and if you're using audio components, for instance, you can apply these to a given microphone. There's kind of limitless possibilities, but this is all now happening in the application.
So Sam, with one step, you can save having to do the copy attributes.
Yeah, you don't even need to do the copy attributes. You save those attributes, and then, so for instance, if I bring this over here, and I now go into my audio tab, I'm going to have these set already on this clip, and if I go in here, it's going to have how I had the filters already set. So this retains these effects permanently, I guess. Question back there?
What happens when you go out on that, when you go into Pro Tools? Does it retain those filters?
It's not going to retain any of that, unfortunately. I wish it did, but basically what's going to happen is typically when you go out to a mix, it's going to strip all the effects out. Now, what you can do is there's a whole other thing that I can show you, which isn't really related to 10.2 on how to do a properly prep mix to get into Pro Tools or Logic, but that's kind of a separate conversation. The point is, though, is you can do a whole lot more now within the application if you're creative with your effects presets. Additionally, if we notice we have a color correction here applied, every video filter, and in fact, actually, I'm going to do a different clip to demonstrate this. So if I do this, and I'm going to go into my effects, and we'll just go find a blur, and drag a Gaussian blur on there. And now if I go, here's something interesting that didn't used to be there. Every one of these now has a shape and color mask on it. So I can now go, and for every filter, I can now put a mask on it immediately, resize, affect the softening, etc. This is kind of a big deal, especially if we come over here. It is now easy to mask these color corrections and go in and do basically, there's so many possibilities now that it's kind of ridiculous when it comes to some of this stuff. So for instance, how many of you guys think that you can do, I'm going to ask the question again, do you guys think it's possible for me to track a color correction shot a la Resolve in Final Cut now?
Yes.
Okay, so there's a lot more yeses than there were when I first started. So if I come over here, this was shown off in Cormelt's presentation in the FCPWORKS suite, but if I come under here, and there is now under C2 Slice X Extras, if you have Color Finale, how many of you guys know what Color Finale is? So Color Finale is an awesome plugin where you can now do curves, etc. So I'll demo that first. I'll just go and put Color Finale on a clip, and this is the biggest request I've had, is to now get curves into the app. So I now have curves right within Final Cut 10, etc. They work great, really responsive, etc. So this is extremely useful. But the thing is, with Slice X now, I now have Color Finale with the shape mask that gets published automatically. So if you own Color Finale and you own Slice X, automatically in SliceX Extras with the latest version of SliceX, I now have color finale with the shape mask. So what I'm going to do is, actually, you know what? I'm going to take, there's a better clip that this works with. I'm going to put this on this clip, and let's see here. If we come over here, we're going to try and track his face with a color correction now. So we're going to put this here. I'm going to open up the control panel for color finale. And I'm just going to come in here, and we're just going to do a simple kind of correction just so you guys can see the effect here. And we'll come over here. I'm going to adjust the mask. And now I'm going to close out of there, and let's track. So does that look like a power window to you guys? It does to me.
SliceX is doing the tracking, so this could be also just the color board's color. Or does it have to be?
Well, you can do, there is a color, so this is designed specifically for color finale at the moment. I haven't even tried it with the color board, but you can do masks and keyframe those. Those are now keyframeable in Final Cut. But it's kind of cool, right?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I had SliceX before without the finale.
Mm-hmm.
Will I still be able to do the same thing? Because if I use the color correction tool from Final Cut.
Yeah, well, so if you see SliceX by nature has a color correct shape mask built in there, so you can already do this. But the controls in color finale are a little bit, I think, more powerful and more similar to what you might see in something like Resolve. So it can take some of these things to another level. But you can totally do that.
Same concept.
Yeah, it's the exact same concept. And by the way, the Core Melt guys added glows and stuff too now, so you can track glows. Like those old iTunes commercials where they used to have them. You can do that now. So additionally, this wasn't even the big feature that was added. There was also another feature that you guys may or may not have seen called 3D text. And that is the biggest feature. Well, actually, you know what? We're going to do one more thing because it's still a part of this, which is you now also have way better masking tools in Final Cut, even without SliceX. So if we go and come under Masks now, there's a new Mask tab, and you now have really customizable mask tools. So let's go and mask out his face here. And now I can draw. You guys may recognize some of this kind of from motion. And I'm just going to go up and around. And we'll come over here. And there we go. Now I can also double click in here to add a control point. And if I control click that control point, I can smooth it out and get Bezier handles. And this is all right in your NLE. This is without leaving the app. This is right here. This is motion graphic stuff. The truth is, this is some really powerful things that have been added into this new release. This was not present before, and it's just a question of where and how you need to use some of these things, whether it's going to be something that you want, but it is there. And if I come over here and we go, we now have 3D titles. How many of you guys have done a lot of 3D titling in the past? I think there's 2 hands. How many people of you guys, how responsive were those titles for you guys?
After Effects usually with motion.
And I imagine there was a lot of rendering, and it was difficult to kind of maneuver and handle all the 3D text, et cetera.
Yeah, it wasn't very good.
Okay, so here in Final Cut, there is 3D text that I think is now making 3D text substantially more usable for the average person. So the way that this works, you guys may recognize some of these controls from motion. is to come in and you can now adjust 3D space, and they have green, blue, and red arrows that will allow you to move titles in 3D space. And you can also, basically these are the exact same controls in motion, and you just kind of do whatever you need to do there and reposition however you'd like. And if I turn this in now, basically it's really easy to maneuver things in 3D space. And if I go and drag the depth slider here, I can quickly expand out the text. You can adjust the weight, which is basically going to affect the font, etc. And you can adjust the front edge side, which is going to be the bevel, and we'll see where that's useful in a moment. You can also go, there's a lighting tab here, and you can turn and affect the lighting style. There's these things called environments, and the way that, depending on what you select, you're going to get different effects on your 3D text. So we'll stick with field for now. But there's even one, actually, you can do colors if you want, and then you can adjust the intensity of that. I can even say I like the way this was lit, but I didn't like that it was colored. I can immediately take the color off of the lighting. But we'll keep this on field for now. So this is the important tab. This is where your materials are. And this is where you're going to see a huge difference in terms of what you can and can't do with your text. So if I click here, you're going to see that I start with all kinds of different presets. So we'll just go ahead and start with, and you know what? I'll go and make this a little bit bigger for now. We'll just close this up. All right, so, so basically, I can change these presets extremely easily and start with what they call material. And I'm going to use some of the brighter ones just so you guys can see the differences. And how quickly they have metal materials, so if I wanted these to be gold, or if I wanted these, and just so you know, when I rotate these, the lighting's going to adjust accordingly. And if you notice how responsive that is too. So, and actually, you know what, we'll move these over. So we'll just go and start with a stone material, or you know what, we'll start with a grunge material here, and we'll just do, we'll do grunge orange. Okay, so it becomes incredibly easy to quickly have really nice looking text that is extremely easy to adjust. So let's go ahead and make this bigger. And if you notice down here, if I go and render this real quick, automatically with some of these presets, I can go ahead and play this back, and there's going to be animation that comes immediately right on the screen, which I can then go, if I go under the title, and I can change the animation style. So right now it's on zoom. They have a whole bunch of preset animations that come in and out of your titles as you go along, which are extremely useful. So in this one, for instance, it's going to come and kind of fade off the screen and back on. And if you notice the performance on that, the render time was pretty much insignificant. So this stuff is really easy to dive in and use. However, if we also notice, you know, wouldn't it be nice if I could adjust this so that I could get really, really in depth with what I was doing to the text? So right now, if you notice, I only have one single material selected, but if I hit this, I can now do multiple materials. And that's going to give me control over 5 parts of the title, which gives me just a ton of flexibility. So let's go now, and we're just going to change this over to aluminum foil. And that's going to change. And if you notice, only the front changed. And if I go and you know what, just so you guys can see this a little bit better. So if we go like that, and we'll keep it so that it's kind of lit, and maybe bring some of this this in so you guys can really see what's happening here. And now if I play with the bevel size, the front edge of the bevel, you're going to see some differences there. And let's go and change the front bevel to a plastic, just so you can see what this does. So now that's going to make the text pop a little bit, and you can do this right on the bevel. And then if I change the side to maybe a little bit of a different, what's gonna look a little bit different? Well, let's do pine. And if you notice, the side now changes. So this becomes extremely malleable. The effects are limitless because all of these parameters, if we come down here, they have these things called materials that you can then go and manipulate. So if I wanted to take a look and see how my aluminum was constructed, you can see that there's a distress, there's metal and wrinkles, and all of these parameters are keyframeable, and you can create these in motions as well. And I can even add another layer, and we'll call this, let's just do an emit layer to this. And I can change the color, intensity, and I can target very specific parts of the title. So if you guys, I think the most useful application for this is you can make some just unbelievable titles for your clients on, you know, the corporate production and some of these other sides. And if you're a one-man band, like, you can probably blow your producer away just with some basic things that you can now do for your customers. So for me, this becomes really, really useful. So that's 3D text. But there is one additional thing that you guys may want to know about 3D text. How many of you guys think that you can do shapes and logos and stuff with the 3D text? We have 1, 2. Okay, not a ton of hands. So there is a trick. If you take vector-based images and you map those to a custom font, which really isn't that hard to do, you can then have any shape or, for instance, logo you want that you could now apply all of these things to. So for instance, what if I had mapped for the FCPWORKS logo to the 1 key? And I go in here, and I go down to, here we go. Or, there's logos.
Yeah, I noticed no gurus around.
All right, so check this out. I now have the FCPWORKS logos here. If you do this right, this is a very simple, straightforward process, much easier than what I just did. And so if you make a vector, so if you take a PNG that you know is basically going to be a black image, there's a little thing on the website. If you Google SVG to or PNG to SVG, there's this little site that's automatically going to convert a logo into a font. And then if you go to this site called Glyfter, you can literally map your own fonts online and just by dragging and dropping and make a couple of adjustments. And then you bring that in. So that's exactly how I did this. So now I have the FCPWORKS logo.
Yeah, I'm sorry, because the 3D titler will only work with a font.
The 3D titler will only work with a font. So if you map a logo to a key or something along those lines, or a square, or a circle, or any of these other things, or the FCPWORKS logo, you can then go, and I've turned this into multiple materials, and we'll just do this quickly with, we'll turn this into aluminum, and actually that's the side, so we're gonna do, we'll do front as aluminum, we'll do the bevel as plastic, and we'll do the side as carbon fiber, because that's what all of the cameras are these days. And now, if we bring this up, I mean, look how easy that is to quickly do a pretty cool logo treatment if you know where your font is. So who still thinks the 3D text is lame? Okay, so anyway, I think it's a really cool feature. There's a ton of stuff, and I think, a lot of this stuff is really gonna improve, once we start seeing people do custom plugins and templates based on this feature. And I think this is gonna kind of make the plugin market explode a little bit. There's a ton of possibilities.